She's like a sickness in my brain, a vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. Pressure in your fragile skull. I take my pleasure from my alcohol. She'll never give you any time at all. She just comes and goes, you know.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is coffee and true crime time. I know I didn't post one today, which will be yesterday when this posts, but I posted another video and I took that opportunity to watch 2 episodes of the Madeleine McCann documentary. So we are gonna get into that. But first, I want to share with you guys something that really bothered me today in the comment section of my video that I posted today, the skincare and makeup video. Now understand that I know I'm a true crime channel. I understand that that's what you guys mostly are here for. But there are some of you that want to see different things from me, and I want to be able to deliver content, even if it's to a small percentage of you. I want to be able to deliver that content to the people that want to see it. And that's why I do different things sometimes. It doesn't mean I'm not still working very hard on whatever case it is that I'm working on at that time. It means that because maybe this case I'm working on next has taken a lot of research and a lot of time, I want to still be able to provide other content just to keep everybody kind of entertained and give you something to watch in the meantime while you wait for the big videos. It doesn't mean you have to watch these videos. It doesn't mean you have to click on them, especially if you read the title and you see it's something you might not be interested in. And it doesn't mean you have the rights to go into my comment section and tell me that I should have taken that time that I used to record that video to put towards content you would rather see. It's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And I know that this happens. And I know that as YouTubers, we make ourselves public personalities, open to criticism, open to unsolicited opinions. And that's fine. That's fine for the most part. And if I wasn't delivering to you guys the kind of quality content that you've come to expect from me, I would completely understand seeing more of that. And I don't see hardly any of it now. 99% of my comments, 99% of my community are warm, loving, kind, and supportive people. And I love that. So I just want to read a comment that I got on my video today and address it and kind of clear that up and, let you guys know what's going on in my head. The whole reason of why I do what I do, because the people who do care about my content and the people who do, follow me and support me on a regular basis, I do owe you an explanation for why I do the things I do. Okay, so this was on the skincare and makeup video, and like I said, I've got a lot of people who ask me what kind of skincare do you use, what kind of makeup do you use, so I posted a video on it because the serial killers series that I'm working on now, the guy I've decided to cover, there's so much that just keeps popping up as I'm researching, and I try to find a way to ingrain it into my script. And you should be expecting this coming week 3 videos, 3 probably hour-long videos on this case. That takes a lot of research. So let me just read her comment really quick. Where are the true crime videos? Waiting, Mystery Monday, the serial killer one, and the cult video. ... Very disappointed. You think you would take this hour filming to make something everyone is waiting for. People can say whatever they want to this comment. It is my opinion, which I'm allowed, and will not be answering any of you back. Not worth my time. Also, I personally think you're trying to do too much stuff at one time. You can't even keep up with the videos that should be put out by now. The cult one is usually done by this far into the month. Should probably just cut the makeup/skincare videos and leave them to someone else. The coffee and true crime is good, but again, how long will it last every day? Because when you did the switch from makeup to true crime, you had Mystery Monday only, and you were keeping the videos coming out on Monday and slowly been missing the mark as you added more to your plate. Again, my opinion, and won't answer anyone nonsense attacking my opinion. Sorry, it was a weird read because this person has incredibly bad spelling and grammar, and it was just hard for me to read. So yes, this girl's right. She's entitled to her opinion. She's entitled to say whatever she wants. However, I would invite her to research and write a senior thesis every single week. No, I'm sorry, within 4 to 5 days. Research and write a senior thesis within 4 to 5 days, and then take a day to record it, and then another 12 hours to edit it, and then another 12 to 18 hours to upload it every single week. And see how often you meet your deadline. And while we're on that subject, my deadline is self-imposed. I'm my own boss. That's why I don't work for anybody. I don't have a mean boss like this lovely commenter handing me a deadline and saying, we need this out by now. And every time I'm running late on a Mystery Monday, I always explain to you guys. I explain to you what's happening. I keep you in the loop. I don't leave you hanging. It's not necessary to come into somebody's comment sections when they're trying to provide content for you to watch in the meantime while they continue to research an incredible video that they've put a lot of time and effort into, and make them feel like they've disappointed you. Furthermore, her comment about the cult series, it's usually out by this time of the month. That's great. I'm so glad you think so. That's awesome. However, I've never given any indication or put myself on any schedule for my cult videos. I've said I will try to do a cult video once a month. I didn't say it will be out by the 15th. I didn't say it will be out by the 3rd week of the month. I haven't said any of that. I've never given you or myself a schedule for the cult videos because, once again, those take an incredible amount of research. And I am working on a cult video. The cult that I'm working on is a very public and publicized one, but there's a lot on it. And I want to make sure I get all my research right. And I want to make sure I provide you guys with the best content that I know I have the ability to do. Without a doubt, when I hit publish on a video, I want to know in my heart that I gave it all I had. That's just who I am. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So in the meantime, I've wanted to provide you guys with some other content. And I've been doing the coffee and crime chats, and I plan to keep those up. So I'm going to be doing those at least 4 times a week. It literally takes 25 minutes to record and like 10 minutes to edit. They're quick, they're easy, and it keeps us connected. And that's what's the most important thing, is keeping us connected. Now, I know the majority of you do not feel as this girl feels, and I love you for that. But what I told her is, listen, you're free to unsubscribe. You don't need to be here. But this community is loving, kind, and supportive. We prop each other up. We don't pull each other down. And if you can't be that way, then feel free to remove yourself. And I invite anybody who feels the same way as this person to unsubscribe. Nobody's making you stay here. I'm not keeping you hostage. I love every single one of my subscribers. You guys know I give you my heart and soul. But if you don't know how to see I posted a video, realize you're not interested in the subject matter, and move on to something different, then I don't want you to be here. I don't want you to be unhappy with the content I'm putting out. I would rather have 20,000 subscribers who love what I'm doing, who are supportive and understanding that life happens, that things are going on outside of YouTube, that I have 3 children and a family I have to take care of, a house I have to take care of, than 500 million subscribers who are going to give me shit for doing the best I can. And that's the fact. So you can unsubscribe. I won't be hurt. I won't be angry. I wish you well. I hope you find another creator that gives you the content that you want at the time you want. But I just do have to say that this kind of pressure from people is the reason why a lot of YouTube creators get burnt out and get stressed out and feel like they have so much pressure on them to put out what everybody wants when everybody wants it. And I'm not ever going to feel that pressure. I feel obligated to you guys to give you the best ever content that I know how to give you. And that's what I feel obligated to do. I don't feel obligated to make sure something's out at a certain time. I don't feel obligated to not do any other videos that don't have to do with true crime or don't have to do with exactly what the majority of my subscribers want. Every single one of you matters to me immensely. And if even 10 people want to see content, I'm going to put it out. I'm not going to detract from anything else, but I'm going to put it out. So that's what that is. And I hope you don't see this as me being rude or unappreciative of my subscribers, but it's people like that I don't want around. I don't want the negativity. I don't want somebody trying to break me down for something that I love and something that a lot of you love. I mean, that video, the skincare video, is it going to be my most viewed video? No, but I think there's a lot of people that did want to see it. Let me see how many views it has. It's got 356 comments and 4.3 thousand views. So 4.3 thousand people were interested in that. And that's important to me, that even that small percentage gets something that they want. And, you know, while I'm doing that and putting out extra content to keep you guys entertained, I am working behind the scenes incredibly hard on my serial killers video and my cults video. So I don't need you to tell me when I need to put things out. It's just ridiculous, and it's so entitled and spoiled and just not attractive. So if you feel that way, then you know how to leave. You're the one that's going to be missing out on our community and the content that I put out in the future, because I'm only going to get better. So thank you. Next. All right, let's talk about the documentary now that that's out of the way. All right, so I watched episode 5 and episode 6, and I have episode 7 and episode 8 left. Those are the last 2 episodes. Something that struck me about episode 5 was, first of all, that's when I started to get annoyed with the documentary again. That's when I started to kind of feel like it was definitely being slanted towards the McCanns. But I also did find that I had a lot of pity for the McCanns. I mean, they went home, they left Portugal, they went back to Leicester. By the way, everybody gave me so much shit in my McCann video, my original McCann video from months ago, for pronouncing Leicester, and I realized that was the wrong pronunciation. Everybody was like, it's Leicester. But I heard in that documentary a guy from Leicester pronounce it Leicester. So I wasn't completely off, guys. I wasn't completely off. But anyways, they went back to Leicester. And can you just imagine having to leave after what was supposed to be a vacation that you went on with 3 children and getting back on a plane to go home with only 2 children? And getting home back to a house that when you left it last, you were with your 3 children, and now you're only bringing 2 back. Madeleine's room was still just as it had been. Probably her little shoes were sitting by the door. All sorts of reminders that there was once 3 children that lived in that house. So I imagine that was incredibly hard for the McCanns. But of course, the press followed them back to their home and surrounded them and was obnoxious and overwhelming yet again. And this documentary, I already had an issue with the press. I think the press will do and say things with an emphasis on selling papers and getting the story that they want to get rather than report with integrity. I think they do that a lot. And it's so funny because YouTubers who cover true crime will often get flack for that. Oh, you're just trying to get views, you're just trying to get views. But the good true crime YouTubers, I think, cover these cases much better than the press does. We cover these cases with less sensationalism and more facts than the press does, because I don't know why, but I believe we do. So it's just funny to me. And then a multi-millionaire businessman, Brian Kennedy, he doesn't know the McCanns, but he hears their story and he decides to help. Bella's down for a nap, and it literally sounds like children are just screaming outside my house, which I don't understand why, because school's in session. So what is happening? Anyways, Brian Kennedy offers to help the McCanns with financial resources and to basically locate Madeleine. And he's got a lot of money, he's got a lot of time, and he also enlists the help of his son, and we'll get to his son a little bit later. Something that really bothered me about this episode was everybody who was interviewed kept talking about the McCanns. Once again, this is the McCann show. What's happening to them, how they must be feeling, what's going on in their heads. And I think it really went to the wayside how Madeleine must be feeling. Madeleine's the one whose life was completely altered, possibly ended. And everybody just kept focusing on, Kate and Jerry and how they were feeling. And I understand that's obviously relevant and important, but I really didn't hear anyone ever say, what must Madeleine be going through right now? What must this little 3-year-old girl, what must she be thinking right now? And that's often the case with these kinds of documentaries. The victim, especially if they're a child for some reason, nobody ever speculates on what's going through their head. What are they thinking? What's happening to them? So that really bothered me. And then they went into this whole drama. They're trying to make the PJ look bad again. And, I don't know. Maybe the PJ is guilty of doing these things. Maybe the PJ is guilty of trying to basically pin this on the McCanns, even though they knew it wasn't the McCanns. It's possible. One of the reporters came out and said, she has a bunch of contacts in the PJ, and they were telling her that the DNA they'd found in the McCann's car and in the McCann's home matched Madeleine. It was definitely her DNA. And so she reported that. And now she's angry because she feels she was just outright lied to, because that DNA was not an exact match for Madeleine. There's a bunch of scientific talk about certain points, and I think 10 of the 15 points of the DNA sample that was found in the wheel well of the rental car matched Madeleine, but this could have been a familial match, meaning Kate, Jerry, and Sean and Emily were all in that rental car, and at any point one of them could have gotten a nosebleed or cut themselves, and the blood could have ended up in the car. And it would show that it was a familial connection to Madeleine. So nothing was saying it was Madeleine's DNA. There was no proof of that. However, that's what the PJ told reporters, so that reporters would now print this story and people would just start believing it. And the McCanns would be guilty in the eyes of the public. And then you've got Clarence Mitchell. If you guys watched my McCann videos from a couple months ago, Clarence Mitchell is not somebody that I really like. I feel like he's greasy. I feel like he's your typical PR person. I think I referred to him as Ray Donovan, like he's a cleaner. He's the guy that comes in and cleans up your mess for you. He's the guy that comes in and tries to figure out the way to make you look the best to the public. And it looked really bad when they hired him because of the fact that he's a spin doctor. He's a professional spin doctor, and he quit his government job that he'd been at for quite a while in order to work for the McCanns full time. So then I have to ask also, how long did he think this whole thing with the McCanns was going to go on, where he felt comfortable to quit his government job to work for them full time? It was almost as if they anticipated this being a long-term thing. And then I'd have to ask, why? Why did you think it was going to go on for so long that you felt comfortable not just taking a hiatus from work, not just taking, a couple weeks to help out the McCanns, but quitting your full-time job in order to work for them exclusively? Clarence Mitchell also said something that bothered me, just the way he said it. I think the way he worded it, somebody in the press asked, why don't they seem as upset as they should? And he said, who's to say how much you should grieve? He didn't say how you should grieve or how much you should show to the public that you're grieving, but how much you should grieve. Who's to say? When you lose your daughter, your tiny little baby daughter, and you don't know where she is, I don't think that there's an end to your grieving. I don't think it's like a quantity kind of thing. You can grieve for 60 days, but then, if you grieve for any longer than that, it's too much. I don't know. It just bothered me the way he said it. I didn't like it. And one of the people who were interviewed said the McCanns were coached to not be too emotional in the press. They were told to not be too emotional in the press because then that would put Madeleine in danger from whoever took her. And I don't know how one thing connects to the other. If somebody kidnapped your daughter and has her, and they see you on TV being very emotionally upset and missing your daughter and wanting her back, how is that going to make a difference for them? How is that going to make them say, oh, they really want her back or not giving her back? And if you're calm and collected and you don't show that you care as much as you do care, how is that going to make them look around and say, oh, they don't really care, we should bring this kid back? It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not sure if they actually were coached. Obviously, I wasn't privy to that information. I wasn't in the meeting. But if they were coached that way, I think it was bad advice. It was told as they thought that they could not be effective communicators and be emotional at the same time. And I completely disagree with that. I think there's a way to be emotional, to show how much you care about something without breaking down and not being able to communicate effectively. I think that the two things aren't even obviously connected. There is a time when you could be so emotional that you can't communicate, or what you're trying to get across isn't coming across because of the way that you're acting or reacting. Of course, that's true. But you can, as an intelligent person, and they both were doctors, so they're intelligent, you can figure out a way to show you care very, very, very much, to show you're devastated without losing the ability to communicate effectively. So I just thought that was really stupid. In general, I don't think it was because Kate and Jerry didn't care about Madeleine being gone that they weren't emotional. I think that in general, they're just not emotional people. I think they're people that don't show their emotions or don't feel comfortable showing their emotions, especially Jerry. And Kate got so much of the brunt. I think people thought that because she was the mother, because she was a woman, she should be showing her emotions more. But just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean that you're just by default hysterical when things happen to you. Okay, so let's move on to episode 6. This is the episode that got me the most, that I was more interested in than episode 5. But in episode 6, they start with Brian Kennedy. And if this documentary has taught me anything, it's that you can literally play sad music behind any series of pictures or any, video of somebody talking, and it automatically makes it sad. That's the point of it, I guess. Brian Kennedy starts talking about how a picture was taken in the Atlas Mountains in North Africa, and everybody thought it was Maddie. It was a woman walking with a small child, and the child looked just like Madeleine. So he called Kate, and he was like, do you want me to go over there and check it out? And she was like, yes, please, if you could, all casual. Like, yeah, do you think you'd just fly over to the Atlas Mountains and check that out for me? He and his son Patrick, they go to Morocco, and they go up into the Atlas Mountains, and they look for Madeleine. And what bugged me the most about this guy was he was like, I couldn't believe how many blonde-haired children there were. And to me, it just felt so like prejudgmental almost, because you're in Africa, you think you're not going to find a lot of blonde people. I mean, it just so happens that my father was born in North Africa. And so, I mean, maybe I know a little bit more about the region just from him telling me about it. He lived there for most of his youth and teenage years. But it just so happens that in the Atlas Mountains, there is a group of people, and they're called the Berbers. And they actually trace their ancestry back to Atlantis. That's what they claim, that they come from the Atlanteans. And many of them have light skin and blue eyes and blonde or reddish hair. There's a whole group of these people there. Anyways, they found this child with its mother, who it was not Maddie. And surprise, surprise, there's a whole group of blonde people living in the mountains that you didn't even know existed in Africa. And then I have to ask, why in episode 6 and episode 5, why are we still talking about the Jane Tanner sighting? Why are we still talking about it? That sighting had already been proved to be another tourist bringing their child back from the night daycare, and why are we still talking about it as if it's a thing? And I know I have 2 episodes left, but I have not yet heard one person say, like, this sighting doesn't even matter because it wasn't Madeleine getting kidnapped. It bugs me. It's like they're putting in all this information that doesn't matter because they're trying to maybe stretch it out to make 8 episodes. I'm not sure what the whole point is. And then they bring in this FBI artist. Guys, I feel like I'm being so sassy in this video, but I don't know. They bring in this FBI artist to make a picture of the man that Jane Tanner saw carrying the child, even though Jane Tanner doesn't remember what this man's face looks like. And in the documentary, they show this FBI artist, like sharpening her pencil with a knife. And I thought to myself, oh, that's how you know she's a real artist, a real FBI artist, because she doesn't use pencil sharpeners like everybody else. She has to sharpen her pencil with a knife. Once again, this is all this B-roll that they're bringing into this documentary. I don't know if it's to legitimize people or their roles in the case, or if it's to just waste time. Either way, to me, it feels like a waste of time. I also have to point out, I don't like how they jump around in this documentary. It seemed like it was going in chronological order, but then they're jumping back and forth. In episode 6, they bring up Robert Murat again and Sergei Malinka, and they already talked about him, in episode 3, I think? Yeah. They talked about him already. Why, when they talked about Robert and Sergei in episode 3, why did they not just say all this other stuff that they said in episode 3 instead of stretching it out to take up another 15 to 20 minutes in episode 6? It was very annoying to me because I got confused, and I know this case pretty well. And I got confused. I was like, wait, did they go back? But when they do bring up Robert Murat and Sergei Malinka again, it really bugged the crap out of me because these 2 guys, I don't think they had anything to do with anything. They were basically jumped on by whoever wanted to point to them as being the guilty parties, including, I believe, the McCanns and their friends. and they had nothing to do with it, and their lives were severely altered. Sergey, his car was set on fire. His car was set on fire because people thought he was like some pedophile, some Russian mafia pedophile, this dangerous guy, and he's just trying to like make a living and do websites for people, and he's literally being attacked. His car is being set on fire, and he says something in the documentary that I think is very important. He says, if you don't have power and you don't have money, you don't have the protection. You're always going to be the person that comes out on the bottom. And I didn't have any of that. I didn't have power, I didn't have money, and the McCanns did. And the Kennedys actually hired this private investigator. His name was Julian. I really liked him in the documentary. I thought he seemed like a pretty honest and genuine person. He seemed like he really wanted to help find Madeleine. You know, I kind of related to him because he said he always wanted to be an investigator. He always wanted to be a detective. He used to love police shows and stuff. And I'm like, same, dude, same. But then Julian, Patrick, and Brian, they start to kind of look back into Robert Murat and Sergey Malinka. And Brian actually met with Robert while basically trying to bug his house and put tracking devices on his vehicle under the guise of asking for his help and offering him a job, because at that point Robert was under such suspicion in Praia da Luz that he wasn't able to get a job. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with him. So that really bugged me. That seemed kind of shady. And Sergey, this poor guy, he was just pulled over the coals. He had the worst things said about him in the papers. He said he would go in to get coffee and people would just stare at him with disgust and judgment. And I really think he was a genuine guy too. I think that he came from Russia. He wanted to make something of himself. He wanted to build his own business, and he's got people setting his car on fire and just treating him really terribly. And even at the end, Julian, the private investigator, he says, I don't think that either Sergey or Robert had anything to do with this once we investigated them more. The way that Sergey Malinka and Robert Murat were treated was exactly the way that Brian and Patrick Kennedy had such a problem with the McCanns being treated. The McCanns were innocent. The McCanns hadn't done anything, yet they were being completely defiled in the press and having the worst things said about them without any proof. That's how Robert and Sergey were being treated, but you didn't have any problem with doing that to them. Why? Because they're not people who have friends in the government. They're not people who have enough status and power and money to be on your radar as somebody that's important. Patrick Kennedy said something along the lines of, I don't care about that. I don't care about those guys and what happened to them. It doesn't matter. Like, what was most important was finding Madeleine. Honestly, he just came off to me like the most selfish, entitled little rich prick ever, because I'm sure he's not like that in real life. I hope. I don't know him, but he came off that way. The documentary made him look that way. You only care about the McCanns being judged. You only care about the McCanns being falsely accused. You only care about the McCanns having fingers pointed at them, but you have two innocent men whose lives are completely altered. They have nothing to do with this case or Madeleine or Kate and Jerry at all, but you don't care about that. Now it's about finding Madeleine. Now we're going to talk about Madeleine. So yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like him. Now let's talk about Joanna Cipriano. She was another little girl in Portugal who disappeared in 2004. The village of Figueroa, where Joanna disappeared, was only about 10 miles away from Praia da Luz, so the vicinity of the two disappearances was pretty close. Joanna was 8, and the crazy thing about this case is that at some point after she went missing, her mother and her uncle confessed to killing her, dismembering her, and putting her in this mini fridge. They confessed to this. Later on, however, Joanna's mother took back the confession and said she had given it under duress, that the Portuguese police department had basically beaten it out of her, and she did have a lot of bruises and her eyes were swollen. There's pictures of this. Now, who was the lead detective on Joanna Cipriano's case? It was Gonzalo Amaral. So he was the lead detective. You have a little girl who goes missing, and then you have the police who are saying that it's the parents who did it. The parents killed their kid and put their kid in the fridge, which is basically exactly the same thing that he said happened with the McCanns, that they had killed Madeleine, whether purposely or accidentally, and put her in the fridge. And let me tell you, this episode, Gonzalo Amaral looked really bad. It made him look really bad. And that's the thing with documentaries. They can find things to make it look like whatever they want it to look like, to make it sway in whatever direction. they wanted to sway. I'm not necessarily saying that he's not a corrupt cop or he wasn't somebody who was more interested in solving the case than getting to the bottom of it. But I am saying that it is very easy to make anything look like anything if you want to. It was crazy though. I didn't know any of that. And according to one person who was interviewed in the documentary, at the time of Madeleine's disappearance, Gonzalo Amaro was actually under investigation for being corrupt and coercing a confession out of the mother. So what my question would be is, why was he still allowed to take the lead on these other cases, or especially another one with a young girl going missing? I just feel like maybe he should have been not doing that. I don't know. Am I wrong? And then you had a couple other witnesses come forward that were from the Praia da Luz area or who had stayed there around the time that Madeleine disappeared, saying they had occurrences of men coming up to their doors trying to raise money for an orphanage, and these men sketched them out. It was looked into, and apparently this orphanage didn't exist in Praia da Luz, that there wasn't any orphanage of this kind in Praia da Luz nearby, so they were clearly there for nefarious reasons, and I don't think that's that suspicious. I mean, in Mexico and Jamaica and things like that, you can't even sit on the beach without somebody coming up to you and trying to sell you anything from marijuana to a gold necklace. It's pretty common in tourist areas that you'll have these kinds of schemes in order to make money off of these rich and maybe ignorant tourists. It's very common in these kinds of areas where there's a lot of tourism. So that doesn't necessarily say anything, but they are trying to connect this to Madeleine's disappearance. One of the people who had one of these men come up to her door says he came up to her door initially and her 3-year-old daughter was standing behind her, and the guy kept looking at the daughter like he was more interested in the daughter than what he was saying to the mother. And then later she was upstairs bringing some laundry down, and when she came downstairs, the man was back standing in her house with her daughter. And then when he saw her, he ran out. So yeah, that's super suspicious. Super suspicious. I don't know if it's connected to Madeleine, but it could be. I mean, as I watch this documentary more and more, I'm seeing that it definitely could be. And you had one woman who had one of these men trying to raise money for an orphanage come up to her door, and she described him as really, crazy-eyed, desperate-looking, gaunt, shaggy hair, shaggy beard, and our FBI artist who sharpens her pencils with knives, she did another picture of this guy. But if you're saying that somebody like this took Madeleine, somebody who's crazy-eyed, somebody who's desperate, they're not going to have the presence of mind to either wear gloves when they go in to kidnap this girl or to wipe down their fingerprints. And remember that on this window that Madeleine's parents claim she was taken out of, there is no fingerprints other than Kate McCann's. So that's always something I like to keep in mind. So overall, I liked episode 6 better than I liked episode 5 because I found out more stuff I didn't know in episode 6. But I was annoyed that we're still talking about the sighting of the man carrying the little girl, and we're not coming forward at this point in the documentary saying that this sighting is not real and has already been invalidated. I don't understand why it's just still being brought up and wasting time. All right, so that is going to be it for today. I know we didn't get to any other stories, but tomorrow I want to talk about the whole Olivia Jade and USC controversy. It's been something I've been following since it broke. A lot of you have asked me to discuss it, and I think I have some interesting viewpoints on it, maybe some unpopular opinions that you guys aren't going to agree with. But we'll have coffee tomorrow and talk about it. Stay kind and stay beautiful. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Try to find the strength and know she comes back to me again. I'm gonna come up from a hiding place and see if I can find the words I wanna say. Let you know that she is mine. Time we'd have to separate.